Elite Facts presents
10 greatest PlayStation 2 games of all time.
10.
Okami. To put it simply, this game is just stunning to look at. After all these years, this game still holds up graphically due to its art style. Whoever thought it was a good idea to create a game using Japanese, ink-washing art style deserves a medal. So with that out of the way, Okami was released in 2006 and is set in a Nippon and is based on Japanese folklore. The game opens with a narrator who describes the events that took place 100 years before the main game, as he details how the White Wolf Shiranu and swordsman Nagi defeated the 8-headed demon named Orochi. Once defeated, Orochi was sealed within a cave so that he could no longer cause harm to Kamiki village and Nagi's beloved maiden, Nami. In the game's present, Nagi's descendant and self-proclaimed greatest warrior, Susanoo, refuses to believe in Nagi's legend and frees Orochi, who escapes and curses the lands, sapping the life from Nippon. Sakuya, the wood sprite and guardian of Kamiki village, calls forth Amaterasu, the sun goddess, known to the villagers as the reincarnation of the White Wolf Shiranui, and asks her to remove the curse that covers the land. Accompanied by the artist Isun, an inch-high creature known as a pankle, Amaterasu restores the land to its normal state. The gameplay style is a mix of action, platformer, and puzzle gaming genres, and has been noted by many reviewers to have numerous similarities in overall gameplay style to the Legend of Zelda series. Combat is staged in a ghostly virtual arena, and Amaterasu can fight enemies using a combination of weapons, fighting techniques, and brush methods to dispatch the foes. At the end of the combat, money as yen is rewarded to Amaterasu and bonuses for completing a battle quickly and without taking damage. The money can be spent on numerous items from merchants across the land, including healing goods, better weapons, tools, and key items for completing quests. Needless to say, though, the game is worth playing sheerly for the art style, but overall is a fantastic experience.
9.
God of War. How could we not mention God of War? The Sony-exclusive hack-and-slash game deserves a mention due to how badass it is. So the gameplay has a similar style to that of Devil May Cry, as God of War is a third-person single-player video game viewed from a fixed-camera perspective. The player controls the character Kratos in combo-based combat, platforming, and puzzle game elements, and battles foes who primarily stem from Greek mythology, including undead soldiers, harpies, minotaurs, Medusa and her gorgons, cyclops, wraiths, sirens, satyrs, centaurs, Cerberuses, and boss opponents. That alone should sell you on this game. Just in case you're still not sold on it though, the story follows Kratos as he goes on a quest killing all of the gods in Greek mythology. That alone sounds amazing, and it's all topped off with a final confrontation with Ares, the god of war. As you can imagine, boss fights in this game are just incredible. Again, this game is just badass.
8.
Devil May Cry. Starting out as an early incarnation of Resident Evil 4, Devil May Cry took a much cooler approach to the horror genre, as the game more or less takes out all survival elements and gives the player a sword and dual pistols with unlimited ammo. The gameplay of this game takes a more hack-and-slash approach to its gameplay rather than presenting itself as a straight-up survival horror game, which the Resident Evil series is known for. Most games a part of this genre don't give the player any incentive to change up their combos, thus leading the players to use the same moves over and over again. In Devil May Cry, however, the game incorporates a style meter. Stylish combat is defined as performing an unbroken series of attacks while avoiding damage, with player performance tracked by an on-screen gauge. The more hits the player makes, the higher the gauge rises. The gauge starts at dull, progresses through cool, bravo, and absolute, and peaks at stylish. The gauge terms are similar to the grades given at the end of the missions. When Dante receives damage, the style rating resets back to dull. Players can also maintain their style grade by taunting enemies at close range. Needless to say, this makes combat that much more enjoyable. Package that with some gothic visuals, a badass main character, awesome enemy types, and some incredible boss battles, and you're sure to have an incredible experience.
7.
Burnout 3 Takedown. So if Need for Speed decided to do crack with Twisted Metal and then decided to have a baby, that baby would probably be the Burnout franchise. Although it takes a more realistic approach with its presentation, such as environments and cars, it does have the carnage of Twisted Metal, minus the weapons. The game takes a much more arcade approach to the racing genre, as the game focuses more on speed and collision rather than just winning a race. This makes gameplay much more competitive and much more enjoyable when you send your friend crashing into a nearby lamppost. The game features a standard crash mode, which makes a return from Burnout 2, in which the goal is to cause as much damage as you can with one car crash, World Tour mode, which is the game's career mode, and Road Rage mode, a game mode that is literally centered around smashing your opponents up, as you must reach a certain number of takedowns before the timer is up. This game is absolute carnage, and it's absolutely addictive.
6,
Time Splitters 2. Some of you may say that Black and Killzone are more deserving of this spot, and hey, we do agree to some extent, as both Black and Killzone are fantastic first-person shooters. However, they lack the charm that the Time Splitters franchise has. Time Splitters 2 is just a phenomenal game all around, made by Free Radical Design and some of the creators of GoldenEye 007 on N64. Time Splitters 2 is probably the best shooter the system has to offer, and that says a lot considering the same system has incredible shooters such as the previously mentioned Black, Killzone, Medal of Honor Frontline, and Rising Sun, the original Call of Duty, Return to Castle Wolfenstein, and 007 Nightfire, just to name a few. The game features some of the most fluid gameplay you can expect and has the most diverse set of characters, levels, weapons, and gameplay modes you could ask for. Want to play a gunslinger in the old Wild West? Go for it. Want to shoot up mobsters in 1930s Chicago? Go for it. Want to play as a space cadet and fight your way off of a dystopian planet? Go for it. Oh, and let's not forget the game's arcade mode that allows you to freely customize all of the settings to your desire. Want an example? Well, you can literally play as a gingerbread man and fight against an army of monkeys with flamethrowers in a Chinese restaurant. What's not to love?
5,
Resident Evil 4. We simply can't forget to mention this one. As much as we adore Resident Evil Code Veronica X, Resident Evil 4 brought a breath of fresh air to the franchise that was needed by switching up the gameplay style. The pacing of the game, by going for a more action-based approach while successfully maintaining elements of survival horror, as well as changing the setting of the game up as it takes place in rural Spain instead of an urban city in America. The story of the game follows Resident Evil 2 protagonist Leon S. Kennedy, who's gone from being a rookie police officer to being a secret agent for the US government. He's tasked with rescuing the president's daughter, who's been taken hostage by a group infected with the Las Plagas parasite known as Los Iluminados, which translated means the Enlightened Ones. Leon must fight his way through this group in order to rescue the president's daughter, as well as to find a cure for the parasite. If you haven't played this game yet, do yourself a favor and play it. It's pretty much on every system available now, so there's no excuse not to play it.
4,
Silent Hill 2. So unlike our PlayStation 1 games list, Silent Hill 2 just edges out Resident Evil 4. I mean, it's a matter of preference, to be honest. Resident Evil 4 has a great story along with some fantastic action-packed gameplay. However, Silent Hill 2 managed to stick to its roots while also bringing one of the greatest stories in gaming history. You might think we're exaggerating with that statement, but trust us, we're not. Now, putting aside some of the hokey voice acting, which is pretty common with Japanese developers taking Western approach to storytelling, look at the first Resident Evil, for example. Silent Hill 2's story follows James Sunderland, who travels to Silent Hill after receiving a message from his wife, who died from an inoperable illness 3 years prior to the story. Once arriving in Silent Hill, Sunderland is greeted by some of the most terrifying monsters you could imagine. Without spoiling anything, the game is just a roller coaster of emotions that just don't let up as the story's mood constantly moves between fear and depression. For the time, this game looked amazing, as we used the system's limitations to its advantage by using fog to hide any rough edges the game had visually, while also creating an incredible atmosphere for the player. Konami must have lost their way over the last few years, but you can't take away the fact that they've made some of the greatest PlayStation 2 games of all time. Definitely check this game out. Just don't buy that awful HD port, though. Just don't.
3,
Metal Gear Solid 3. Once again, going back to Konami, it's pretty safe to say that they were on fire back in the heyday of the PlayStation 2, as they released amazing titles such as the previously mentioned Silent Hill 2, Silent Hill 3, Metal Gear Solid 2, Zone of the Enders, and the 2 Castlevania games that no one seems to talk about. Seriously guys, they're pretty damn good. Now, it's one of those things where it's personal preference as both games are good, but we're going to give this spot to Metal Gear Solid 3 instead of 2, as we feel that the story was just so much more well-rounded in comparison to Metal Gear Solid 2. Again, it's a preference thing, but MGS3 appealed more to us with its 1960s setting, fantastic narrative that's accompanied with some amazingly detailed cutscenes, more well-rounded gameplay, and is considered by many to be one of the greatest games ever made.
2,
GTA Vice City San Andreas. Okay, so this one is a bit of a cheat, but let's be honest, it wouldn't be fair on other games if the GTA series took up 2 spots on this list. Needless to say, GTA 3 was a game changer as it popularized the open-world crime genre, even though Driver 1 and 2 were technically out before this. That being said, however, GTA 3 has nothing on both of its successors, GTA Vice City and GTA San Andreas. Why? Well, even though GTA 3 paved the way for these 2 games, GTA 3 lacks the charisma that both San Andreas and Vice City have, although that's not to say that GTA 3 doesn't have charisma. Vice City brought us all back to the 1980s and essentially gave us the Scarface game we all wanted, before we got a pretty damn good Scarface game on the PS2 4 years later. Whereas San Andreas brought us a much larger map, gave us a more gangsta-type theme, as well as a lengthy story. In many ways, San Andreas is much more superior to Vice City due to its larger map, more side activities to do across said map, a more diverse customization system for both the main character and vehicles within the game, and probably, most importantly, you have the ability to swim. However, what Vice City lacks in the features department is made up with an incredible 1980s soundtrack, a fantastic environment that teleports you back to neon-lit streets, and a simple yet fantastic story with an all-star cast, which is sort of expected with GTA games anyway. Either way, no matter which game you choose, you're in for a good time.
1,
Shadow of the Colossus. Considered by most game enthusiasts to be one of the greatest games to be released in the 6th console generation, Shadow of the Colossus is simply a breathtaking game. Visually, the game is just stunning to look at, and its gameplay is something that has never been seen up until this point. Progression through Shadow of the Colossus occurs in cycles. Beginning at a central point in an expansive landscape, the player seeks out and defeats a Colossus, and is then returned to the central point to repeat the process. To find each Colossus, Wander may raise his sword while in a sunlit area to reflect beams of light, which will converge when the sword is pointed in the right direction of the next encounter. Once a Colossus is found, the player must discover its weaknesses to defeat it. Each Colossus dwells in a unique lair, and many Colossi cannot be defeated without making use of the surrounding environment. Every Colossus has at least one weak point, indicated by a glowing signal that can be illuminated and identified by the sword's reflected light. The game is novel in the fact that it had a wide variety of unique boss battles which had never been seen up until that point, and the game's atmosphere is just hauntingly beautiful. It's easy to see why people have this at the top of their favorite games lists, and we honestly can't blame them. We know we're not going to please everyone with this list, so let us know in the comments section below, as we'd love to see some of the games you guys played.
Don't forget to like us and subscribe for more Elite Facts.